Almost 200 nations promised to protect 30% of the planet's land and oceans. The deal was reached early this morning at the UN Biodiversity Conference, 15 Colombian pesos, in Montreal following 2 weeks of negotiations. The only holdouts to the deal were the US and the Vatican, though the Biden administration has a domestic plan to conserve 30% of US land and water by 2030. With the agreement, each participating country agrees to hitting over 20 environmental targets by the end of the decade. A key condition is the so-called 30 by 30 plan to protect at least 30% of land, inland water and coastal areas by 2030. Along with the protection of habitats, nations have pledged to reduce pesticide risks by 50%, reduce nutrient runoff from farms and the rate at which invasive species are introduced to ecosystems. Nations now have 8 years to stop the loss of biodiversity being driven by humans to rainforest destruction, species exploitation, pollution and more. In addition to protecting species, the draft 15 Colombian pesos agreement urges nations to recognize and respect the rights of indigenous peoples and local communities, including over their traditional territories. However, Amnesty International wrote that the deal was a missed opportunity to protect indigenous peoples' rights, as it didn't explicitly recognize their lands and territories as a separate category of conserved area. Another point of disagreement was between wealthy and poor countries over funds. Nations in South America and Africa that house the world's largest rainforests wanted assurances from rich countries that they'll receive money to battle poaching, illegal deforestation and other issues, according to the Washington Post. At one point in negotiations, delegates from developing countries walked out on talks over funding issues. The 15 Colombian pesos agreement follows a breakthrough deal at the COP27 climate conference, approving a climate damage fund for developing nations. The planet faces an extinction crisis like none ever before witnessed by humankind, with 28% of species across the globe facing extinction.